Yeah, thank you.
Welcome to the press conference with Mr. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, and Mr. Alexander Stubb, President of Finland. This event is bilingual. Both English and Ukrainian will be spoken and translated. First, we will hear statements by both presidents, and then we will have time for questions. Mr. Stubb, please.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to have you here, Mr. President Volodymyr. But as so often before, I think we wouldn't be here was it not for our wives, because I think the original idea was that the two of them would have a meeting here, and then we ended up meeting, and I think in very much an opportune time. Warmly welcome to Finland. It's lovely to see you here. There are times when you know that the world is at a turning point. Right now, we're facing one of those moments or choices between two different worlds, Yalta or Helsinki. In other words, spheres of influence or equal rights and duties for all states. And I do always have to stress that Yalta is Ukrainian. The principles of international law and the European security order have not changed, and there is no need to start changing them. Independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, these are the principles of the UN Charter and the Helsinki Charter. We must work towards a just and sustainable peace in Ukraine based on these principles. The only solution is that Russia ends its war of aggression in Ukraine. Ukraine has an undeniable right to defend itself on its own and supported by its partners. This right cannot be restricted in any way, not now and not in the future. We're here to talk about peace through strength. Ukraine wants peace, Finland wants peace, Europe wants peace, the United States wants peace. Russia, on the other hand, still has to show that it wants a genuine peace. The first step in achieving peace is a ceasefire. There are only two ways to respond to the proposal of the President of the United States. It's a yes or a no. No buts, no conditions. Ukraine accepted a ceasefire without any forms of conditions. If Russia refuses to agree, we need to increase our efforts to strengthen Ukraine and ratchet up pressure on Russia to convince them to come to the negotiating table. I value the strong role that the United States, under the leadership of President Donald Trump, has taken in these peace talks. Yesterday's phone conversation between President Trump and President Putin was a step in the right direction towards a full, unconditional ceasefire. Trump wants to stop the killing, and he's right. The discussions with you, Volodymyr, showed me yet again how like-minded we are in so many ways. Ukraine is a part of Europe, and I stress that. Ukraine is European. I hope soon we will also be able to be together in the EU and in NATO. The cooperation between Finland and Ukraine is based on an equal partnership. Finland has a lot to learn from Ukraine. The Ukrainian armed forces are the strongest and most modern in Europe. Ukrainian society has stood united. Ukrainians have showed remarkable resilience. In Finnish, we call this sisu. Finnish people have privately donated over 100 million euros to Ukrainians in support. Finnish defense and tech industries have supported Ukraine in defending independence. Finland will continue its strong support for Ukraine. Volodymyr, we are in this together. We Finns understand what you're going through. We will stand by your side for as long as it takes. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава. Thank you so much. Can I? Okay. Шановний пане президенте, дорогий Олександр, шановні присутні, пані та панове, дорогі народи Фінляндії, я вдячний вам за
Finland, I'm so grateful to you for your welcome, for this visit together with the First Lady of Ukraine, for your work together for support of Ukraine, for support of Ukrainians. We in Ukraine value very much the relationship between our peoples, between people. And we proceed from the fact that in this time when we are defending Ukraine from the Russian aggression, this is the foundation for guaranteeing safety and security, not just for Ukraine, but for your country as well, for all our countries, for our partners in the region, in our Europe. Our people know what is to be a neighbor of Russia. We really know that. And only when we are all together in Europe, when we're interacting and helping one another, work together, we are partners only in the terms of unity. We can regulate normal and ensure normal, safe life for our people. So joint pressure on Russia is necessary as the precondition of the peace. I thank Finland, I thank you, Alexander, I thank to Mr. President. This is what we're working for together, to reach unity for joint defense. And the most important thing in our negotiations today is the defense support. Ukraine is grateful for the support packages for our guys in the front, for defense against the Russian strikes, Russian attacks. Each night in Ukraine, it's the work of our aerial defenses in order to protect our people, our children. Even this night, after Putin's talk with President Trump, President of the States, when Putin allegedly said that he is given the order to stop strikes on the Ukrainian energy targets. 150 drones were hit in the energy infrastructure, transport. They were unfortunately hit two hospitals and regular city infrastructure. So Putin's words are very different from reality. And specifically for that, we need defense. We need support of our aerial defense. We need pressure on Russia from the Defense Council. I am grateful to Finland for its support of our defense. Thanks for the defense package. Thank you, Alexander. And the next point is the defense production. All of us in Europe need to increase the potential of our defense industry. In Ukraine, we have the most effective industry at the moment for all types of drones necessary. In the war, in the modern war, we discussed the investments in the Ukraine defense industry and in the European ability to defend itself. So I'm grateful to Finland for providing 670 million euros to purchase from the Finnish manufacturers. Today we will have a meeting with representatives of the defense companies in Finland. We'll discuss that. Third, civil infrastructure defense. Finland, especially at its borders with Russia and Belarus, have very good experience, and we'll be talking about how to spread this experience in order to organize the combined defense. It's very important for us to have this initiative, and our ministers today will sign the relevant documents that will initiate the coalition. I thankful to Finland in order to be prepared to support this in Ukraine. And a few important things. Security guarantees that is necessary so that war will not reoccur. Now, as a result of global efforts, we can stop Putin. We have to do it together, all of us. First of all, together with America, with the whole of Europe, together with other partners in the world. I want to thank everyone who is helping us. Ukraine would like to thank the American side, to thank President Trump for meeting our teams. It was a productive meeting, a good meeting. We're hoping that agreements about the ceasefire will, in the end, be realized. We hope that America will carry on working and putting pressure on Russia so that everything will be implemented. We are considering complete, full ceasefire as one of the initial steps towards peace. I believe that in this year, the war can properly end with a decent peace. We need security guarantees for Ukraine, though, otherwise Putin will come back with war. And that was his essence from the very start. 25 years of Putin in power. He either had war somewhere or he was ruining lives in other countries all this time. And we have to protect our people against that. I thank the President for being prepared to work together with us on the security guarantees. And we will discuss with other European partners possible steps on the ground. We're talking with partners about security in the sky and in the sea. It's possible to discuss our integration in Europe, in the North Atlantic Union. Our country joined NATO, but we should not forget that the alliance is the preparedness to work together for region security. Our Ukrainian army indeed is one of the most powerful in the world, considering the modern warfare, and that is objective, that is true. Together with Ukraine, NATO indeed can be the strongest, can be stronger. That's why we need to work together with the alliance to get new experience so that Ukraine, as Finland, would be able to join NATO. That would not be easy, not everyone supports that, but we can carry on working on that. I want to thank you for supporting Ukraine with regard to joining the European Union. Ukraine will be in the European Union. That is also a security element. It's economic and social security. And thank you that we're also working together in that direction. Thank you so much again. Glory to Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the first question goes to Maria Yemets, European Pravda.
Пане президенте,
Mr. President,
публічно вимагає, щоб у рамках мирної угоди
Putin
США визнали
wants
Крим
that
та інші
USA, within the peace agreement, would consider Crimea to be part of Russia. Of course, Ukraine will deny that, will not acknowledge that. What will we do if the US agree to do that? Will we stop the peace treaty or not?
In 1940, Finland, under the military pressure, had to cede part of its sovereign territory to Russia in order to survive at that time. Is that a path that Ukraine should consider now, or we should avoid it at any price? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. First of all, any negotiations, it's a very it's a chance to finish the war. So far, the Russians are not showing that they're ready to finish the war. With regard to the Crimean territory, that would be one of the sensitive and complex issues at the future. The first step is one thing. Ceasefire, of course, we need to cross some grounds to get there in order to have quiet sky and quiet seas. So they are the correct steps if we want to end the war with a just peace. And then we'll be moving to other questions. Amongst them, of course, will be territory questions. The red line for us, it's if the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories will be considered Russian. We would not agree to that.
Statehood usually rests on three pillars: independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. And Finland, in 1944, with the peace of Stalin, lost two of those pillars. We retained independence, pretty much as the only Soviet neighboring state, but we lost our sovereignty to decide. And we also lost 10% of our territory. And as I keep on stressing, territories where both of my grandparents were born and where my father was born. So if the question is, should Ukraine fall into this predicament? My answer is absolutely no. We work continuously to maintain the independence, the sovereign right for Ukraine to decide its path towards Europe and the West, and its territorial integrity. This is why we're here. This is why diplomacy continues. And this is why this is such an important moment in international relations and international history. Because in Europe, there has been no serious territorial acquisition or takeover through force. And we don't want that to happen again. World War II was enough.
Maria Stenros, Finnish Broadcasting Company.
Hello. The peace process has begun, and yesterday there was this call between Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin. Do you feel that you are really a part of these negotiations sufficiently? And what steps you see to make real progress?
Thank you. In this war, Russia was the aggressor, and we are defending ourselves against the aggression. There are two main subjects in this war. So no one is fighting to be a subject. I'm simply stating the fact. The war is in the territory of Ukraine. Russia is the aggressor, and we are living and defending ourselves, surviving and fighting for our sovereignty, our independence, and in this war, we definitely will win. We will overcome. Concerning the future, it's not impossible to finish this war without us, to reach just peace. Today, I will have a contact with President Trump. We will discuss the details with him today, the details for the next steps in Jeddah. We had a good meeting between our teams. I believe that everything was going correctly. If it were not for Russia, that is always not happy when something is going properly and correctly. So I think we'll discuss the details for future steps. And I might hear from him the details of his conversation with Putin.
Yeah, let me just emphasize that in diplomacy, a lot of things happen under the radar or in the engine room. And for the past 13 months, I've been able to observe, see, listen, hear, and discuss with President Zelenskyy and his team. They are very engaged in every moment of the negotiation. And they are in many ways in the driver's seat on this. And just having looked at the flurry of diplomatic activity even last night, after President Trump had spoken with President Putin, it was very clear that the Ukrainians were very much involved in this. So I have no worries whatsoever. This is a first-class diplomatic team, and now we're trying to work very close with the Americans to make sure that we get the negotiations back on track again. I keep on stressing it was the Ukrainians that accepted the unconditional ceasefire, and it was Putin that rejected the unconditional ceasefire.
Anna Korkman, AFP.
Mr. President Zelenskyy, have you, as you hoped, got any details from the US about yesterday's talk between Trump and Putin? And is Ukraine going to take part in the new truce talks in Saudi Arabia on Sunday that were announced by the US?
I've had some details. As the President of Finland properly stated in the evening and perhaps during the night, our team had some communications, but I would like to discuss the detail after the direct dialogue with President Trump. Secondly, I said we are ready to send our technical team concerning the future steps. What will be the format? It will be something we'll inform later.
Elena Kervinen, Helsingin Sanomat.
Thank you. After the call with Trump and Putin yesterday, we hear that the Russian key condition for any resolution would be, for example, stopping military aid to Ukraine and intelligence sharing. For President Zelenskyy, do you think US could agree to this kind of conditions? And if so, do you think Europe could help you enough? And to President Stubb, what should Europe do now to make Russia agree to an unconditional ceasefire? Thank you.
I think that no one can influence the United States of America with regard to help to Ukraine or other countries. The decision is the personal decision of President Trump, in my opinion. Yes, Russia would like that our partners would stop helping us because that weakens the Ukrainian positions. It looks very strange, as if you're not going to go to war against us. If you really want peace, I mean Putin here, why are you then worrying about the Ukrainian army? Why are you doing everything to weaken our army or weaken the defense of our people? Because if we're talking about stopping possible support, for example, with regard to intelligence, that's important. What's important? We're losing it. We're not having this information. We have other information, other data from other partners. Okay, if we're losing the American intelligence, we're losing, for example, the precision of the flight for ballistics. Why does Putin want that? If he doesn't want to kill us, why is he fighting for President Trump to stop giving this information to us? That indicates that it's not proper requirements. That indicates that he wants us not to receive information. When, for example, ballistics are hitting Ukrainian civil targets, because that's what they're doing, they're hitting civilian infrastructure. That means he is wanting us not to know. So he wants our people not to go to bomb shelters. That indicates continuing the war. So I don't think that one needs to make any concessions with regard to Ukraine, help to Ukraine. We need to strengthen support of Ukraine because that's a signal that Ukraine is prepared to any surprises from the Russians.
Yeah, I fully agree with President Zelenskyy. I think historical experience shows that if you portray any form of weakness in the face of Russia, they will use that. And that's why I think that some of the key elements linked to the self-defense of Ukraine have to do with intelligence, for instance. As far as Europe is concerned, I welcome the leadership of Prime Minister Keir Starmer and President Macron. We will have a military planning meeting in London tomorrow for our strategic heads, trying to figure out what the best possible security arrangement military plan might be. There's one little detail that I keep on stressing in all conversations with our allies, and that is that Ukraine has an extremely capable negotiating team. The United States has an extremely capable negotiating team. Russia has a negotiating team. And I feel very strongly that Europe should have a negotiating team as well. And I would like to see the leadership come from countries such as Britain, France, Germany, and Italy. So we need to sort of get our act together to have skin in the game. And I think especially once the ceasefire begins and the actual peace negotiations begin, Europeans know one or two things about peace and should be involved.
Otamik, Bloomberg News.
Hi, Ott Tamek from Bloomberg News. My question is for Mr. President Zelenskyy. Did you see yesterday's phone call as a complete failure or a first step? And do you think it's possible for there to be a ceasefire specific to energy infrastructure? And also, in the next Saudi Arabia meeting, who will be representing Ukraine and who will be representing the United States? Thank you.
With regard to the next meeting, again, I apologize. I am still not ready to talk through all the details, but at the Saudi Arabia meeting, we will be talking about the partial ceasefire with regard to infrastructure and energy sector, etc. Also, that will be a technical team. Team who knows, the experts. On our part, there will be the military people, the energy experts, and people who have deep understanding about the port infrastructure and other civilian infrastructure. That's technical level. Not quite the diplomatic meeting that has already happened, but I do not exclude carrying on in that format as well. We are hoping to arrive to the next step, to the ceasefire. On our part, there will be a team that works on a daily basis. It's prepared. Unfortunately, because of the war, we understand what these people are, because they work daily, because people see that Russia hits the very targets. As Americans and President Trump were saying, he thinks he had a good conversation and there is a chance to have ceasefire in the sky and with regard to civilian infrastructure, etc.
Yeah, I agree with President Zelenskyy. I guess my assessment of the outcome of yesterday's conversation is that the glass is half full. And I keep on stressing, the President of the United States has taken a leadership in these negotiations, and he wants peace. And of course, the ceasefire has been agreed by the Ukrainians, but not yet by the Russians. So we have to continue to work towards a ceasefire and then eventually a lasting and just peace. We're not there yet, but yesterday was one step in the right direction, and I know that the Americans are working around the clock to make this happen.
Anne Kauranen, Reuters.
Thank you. Anna Kaunan for Reuters News. We would like to ask President Zelenskyy about the energy sector ceasefire. What would you need to give an order to stop strikes on Russian oil facilities? Thank you.
Well, definite. And Putin's words that he is given an order to stop specifically the energy sector strikes, unfortunately, that's not enough. Unfortunately, this war made us very practical people. And, for example, after Putin's words yesterday, he said that there will be no strikes on energy infrastructure and civilian infrastructure. He said that he gave that order. It would be 145 strike drones for S-300 rockets, Iskander rockets, Sumy, Donetsk, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, and other regions hitting agrarian production enterprises, railways at the Dnipropetrovsk region, so 21 regular building were hit. So that is the value of Putin's words. So just the words are not enough. One would wish to have proper control, and today is difficult to say. Again, the technical meeting is forthcoming, but I think the subject of this control has to include America. America has to be the subject of supervising that. If we have such an understanding and the list of facilities, we have it. Civil facilities and energy, infrastructure facilities, we will prepare that list and give it to our partners, definitely. So if the Russians would stop hitting our targets, we certainly would not be striking their targets.
Lauri Nurmi, Iltalehti, Finland. A question for President Zelenskyy. What are Ukraine's red lines in peace negotiations? I mean, all the red lines. And do you trust that President Trump can pressure President Putin for peace, at least for ceasefire? And a question for President Stubb. What are the red lines for Europe, and do you trust on Trump? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Alexander. Well, all of the red lines, I wouldn't be able to say that now. It's a long discussion. It's important not to lose independence and sovereignty of our country, so that never, ever in their life, Russia would have any influence on the independence of Ukrainians. I don't want to discuss what our army should be with him, because it's part of the security guarantees for the Ukrainians, not for the Russians, for the Ukrainians. That is an important element. The infrastructure of the security guarantees is an important element of our independence, of just and guaranteed peace, so that war will not return. Also, I'm not going to discuss with them the economic guarantees of securities. I would be short. The European Union is the main Ukrainian economic security guarantee. So these are things we need. Thousands of people, journalists, political prisoners, civilians, not just the military, various people. Thousands of people are in prisons. All of them have to be with their families, with their Ukrainian families. And we need to receive everyone who was tortured. We need to bring them back to their families. Unfortunately, even the bodies of those that died, these are the things that have to be present. And independence and sovereignty, even in the territories which are temporarily occupied, that means they are temporarily occupied. They would not become Russian, these territories, never.
She doesn't usually let me speak, so my spokeswoman. To answer your question, the first point is to say that obviously it is only Ukraine that defines its red lines and its negotiating position. And our position is to try to facilitate and help Ukraine to achieve those goals. But I think our overarching take is that Ukraine should have the right to choose its own future, the right to choose its own destiny, the right to choose the international organizations in which it wants to participate. And in my mind, the two key ones obviously are the European Union and NATO. There's no red line except the fact that Ukraine is and will continue to be European now and in the future. President Donald Trump is a seasoned negotiator, and he's driving this process forward right now. He's trying to stop the killing, ceasefire step one of that. And then after that, we all need to work together to achieve a just and lasting peace. Because I think the key in all of this is that Russia should not be able to do this ever again. And that is a red line, and a red line about European security.
And Olli Varis, Ilta-Sanomat.
Thank you. Two-part question for President Zelenskyy. What kind of expectations and hopes do you have for Finland? What could Finland do? And another thing about US, what do you think about the changes in US policy after Trump took office? We all saw what happened in the White House a few weeks ago. Do you feel that US has turned its back on Ukraine? Or do you still think that President Trump can push Putin to accept full ceasefire and accept peace terms, which also Ukraine could accept? Thank you.
For Ukraine, it's very dangerous if America won't be our strategic partner and would turn its back on Ukraine. I would not like to discuss it. We had steps or signals of this worry, especially suspending the help. I am grateful to the President and his team that everything was restored. It's important for us because our strong relationship, our strategic vision of the future for Ukraine, I believe that that will not be changed. Concerning the unconditional ceasefire, we responded because we really want to stop the war. We understand that the Russians definitely don't want to finish the war. And for me, we need to see the clear, transparent steps of Ukrainian diplomacy, and the President Trump and his team, and what's important, the American people need to really see and know that for us it is important to finish this war as quick as possible, because for us that is the most important thing. We want that everyone will, in the end, see what Putin is, who he is, and how it is to negotiate with him only through force. And the United States have everything to actually implement that. Concerning Finland, we're very glad that we are receiving support from Finland. Good expectations for carrying on our relationship, continuing it. I'm very happy that we have such good, friendly relationship with the President, with Alexander, with your country. We definitely can be partners even before the security guarantees, and also the long border with Russians. That always will be a worry, irrespective of which alliance we are in or will be in, whatever happens. That is very important, that a country would independently have an opportunity to provide security for its people. We have experience in that. We want to share that experience. We want to develop co-production of drones and other modern technologies, both in Ukraine and in Finland.
And last question to Nicolas Vinokur, Politico.
Thank you. President Zelenskyy, you mentioned you might have direct contact with President Trump. Could you clarify, are you expecting to speak to him in coming days? And if so, what will you ask him? Will you ask him to put more pressure on Russia to respect the ceasefire? Thank you.
Today, there was a call, very, very short. Everything will happen after the call. More information will be after the call.
Thank you for participation.
Thank you so much.